Good morning, Toastmasters and guests. For our guests, my role as speech evaluator is to, first of all, introduce our featured speaker, as well as he is giving his speech or project, take down notes, and then come up after his speech is complete to evaluate him. Relatively straightforward. How was his vocal communication, his visual use of imagery, his use of words and different vernacular, his speech content, did he communicate his purpose? Basically just a general evaluation of the speech so that our speakers can get immediate feedback on how they did. So today, as mentioned, I am introducing Jeff Chilson. Jeff happily wrote me my introduction, which I'm thrilled with. Jeff writes, "The ability to influence other people and persuade them to accept your ideas, products, and services is important if you want to succeed, whether it's in work, life, or Toastmasters. Like other speaking skills, persuasion can be learned. It just takes practice, and in many cases, using the right vernacular." So Jeff today is completing project number 1, the Effective Salesperson, from the Persuasive Speaking Manual. And Jeff is taking on this project as part of the Advanced Communication Series to gain his requirements for the Advanced Communicator Gold Award. This is actually an 8 to 12 minute speech. So again, for our guests, this is a little bit longer than a standard 5 to 7 minute speech. This is really considered a project more than just a speech. It's split into 3 sections, a 3 to 4 minute lecture or speech area, a role play, and then a quick discussion. So because of that, as Jeff has communicated, he would like the timer to go green at 4 minutes, yellow at 7 minutes, and red at 11 minutes. So again, completing project 1, the Effective Salesperson, I'd like to welcome Jeff Chilson.
Well, thanks. As Anna mentioned, I do have 3 sections in this particular project. I'm going to start off with some basic discussion about the persuasive process we use for sales. What makes a good salesman? Knowing what the buyer goes through as they process their ideas and what they need to do as far as purchasing something. And then the core of that is going to be developing the sales strategy, how we as salesmen would be effective in completing that role. Lastly, she mentioned I will have a role play and an informal discussion. Let's talk about this, the fundamentals of what goes into making an effective salesperson. And there's 5 different key parts, and you'll recognize these right away of anybody that you've ever had to deal with as a salesperson. First of all, they're going to be focused on the buyer. They want to make sure that they understand what that buyer needs. And that's really the second part. They need to possess good listening skills, understand what the buyer needs. The third thing is, as they go through that process, is being able to build value for the customer in the product that they sell. And the other 2 are more fundamental. They, of course, have to radiate credibility, have integrity, and last, maintain a good attitude. Nobody likes walking into a store and getting a grumpy salesman. So those are the 5 main parts that have to underlie every salesperson if they're going to be successful. The next part is knowing the buyer's needs, what sort of process they go through. And first of all, they have this identification. They realize that they have something they need. Then they recognize the importance of whatever that need happens to be. And they're going to start to search to fulfill that need and evaluate some options and finally make a decision. So using Peter Cottontail as my example, he's going to realize, I'm out of eggs. This is important. I have a need. And Easter's coming up this weekend. I really need eggs now. Then he's going to start to search to fulfill those needs. He's going to go to Walmart or Meijer, who's got eggs. He's going to start looking around, and he's going to start to evaluate some options. Do I want farm fresh eggs? Do I want organic eggs? Do I want brown eggs? Probably not. Imagine he did that in 29 and it was a real bad experience. Probably the wife didn't let him forget that one. Then eventually he's going to decide, okay, I'm going to go get a bunch of eggs at Sam's Club. They're at the lowest price, vast amounts. We're good on the eggs. So we take all these pieces. What it is the salesperson has as far as their key core strategies and abilities, and knowing what the buyer is thinking, and try and move them along in that process from the part where they identify that they have a need to the part where they make a decision. So that we put together into a nice sales strategy. And for the salesman, it looks like this. First thing you want to do is build some rapport with the customer. little bit of small talk perhaps, but get to know a little bit about the customer. And at that part, you start to understand what the buyer needs. That's the second step, is understanding what it is that that buyer needs, particularly through using open-ended questions, trying to help them understand and put some ideas and words to that need. Finally, you want to try and solve the buyer's problem, help them to see what the solutions are, and then present them with some solutions, and eventually obtain commitment. Your salesman, the mantra is always be closing. So with that sales strategy, I'd like to try and put that into practice here with a role play, and I have obtained the services of Brian Trent with a role play today. So please welcome Brian to the front. Thanks, Brian. I appreciate your assistance on this.
Pleasure.
For our role play today, and this particular project, we're just trying to do something very simple. I'm just trying to sell Brian a very simple product and trying to put it into a context. So the context we're going to use here is Brian has come into a bookstore, my bookstore, and he's in sort of this business leadership section looking for a good book. Or perhaps it's just browsing, I don't know. Brian's role here is just to play himself, essentially, answer as he normally would, and we'll just see how well I can move through the sales strategy and see if it's successful or not. Ready?
Sure.
Well, good day. Welcome to my bookstore.
Oh, thank you. It's good to be here.
See, you're browsing through our business section. Is there a title I can help you find?
I'm not really sure what I'm looking for. Maybe some books on different types of vernacular, that kind of thing. I'm trying to increase my ability to speak with various types of folks. But I didn't really set my mind on it.
Well, we have a lot of very good titles here. How satisfied are you in your career at the moment? Have you...
Well, most days are okay, but hey, I'm really looking for a book that'll help me take that next jump where after that might be. So I'm definitely looking to further my career.
So, your career, have you made several moves at certain points in time?
Not really. That's kind of the problem. I'm seeing kind of stuck.
Seem kind of stuck. Okay. Are you satisfied with the work that you're doing from day to day?
Most days.
Most days, but looking for something a little bit different.
Yeah, definitely.
Kind of maybe that you might say it's kind of a little hungering somewhere.
Definitely.
Or something different.
Absolutely.
We have a lot of great titles. I'd like to recommend one if you'd like. I have this book here. This is called StrengthsFinder 2.0 by Tom Rath. In this book, it's very short, as I mentioned, most people, limited amount of time. He has some very basic ideas about the way that we approach our work and our career. And lots of people say, well, strengthen your weaknesses. But he says, just find the things that you're strong in. And you mentioned that you are a little less satisfied with some things. So he has this book, try and help you develop what are your key strengths. Does that sound interesting?
It does sound interesting. Does it cover vernacular at all, or is it?
Plenty of vernacular.
Okay.
This thing is loaded with vernacular.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, the key part of this is that you'll find in the back there is a code back here for an online assessment, included with the cost of the book. The book itself is $10. But if you do the online assessment, it actually pinpoints some of your strengths and helps you to identify what particular skills you'd like to develop in your career. Now, you mentioned vernacular. Let me mention some of the vernacular that he's written into his various strengths. Achiever, activator, adaptability, analytical, arranger, belief, command, communication, competition, connectedness, consistency, context. He develops all those different pieces, and that's just letters A through C, and tries to figure out, or help you figure out, as the reader, what it is you're strongest at. And then to think about, how can I work that into my career on a day-to-day basis? Does that sound like a book you'd be interested in reading?
Well, it's kind of small for $10, but it's fine. Do you mind if
Yeah,
look
go ahead.
through it?
Please do take
I'm
that.
not entirely sold yet. I mean, it's hardcover. Hardcover generally more expensive. I was kind of thinking about softcover books.
Well, you can, and our store does offer free shipping on anything that we don't necessarily have in stock, but if we find a soft cover, or if you'd like it via ebook, we can sell it to you as well.
Okay. That's good. But it's a possibility. I might browse around a little bit more.
Okay. Absolutely, you're more than welcome to.
Okay.
If you'd like, I could set that book up front, and if you'd like to purchase it, I'll have it there at the desk for you.
Okay.
Does that sound great?
Yeah, it does. Most likely I'll be back up again.
Okay.
Well,
Thank you
very much.
Don't go anywhere. So that's the sales strategy. Hopefully you saw some of the parts of that. We built a little rapport and tried to ask lots of open-ended questions. Brian did mention that he was very stingy on purchasing things. He played that well. I appreciate
It's
that.
actually my real personality.
So I did try to solve the buyer's problem. I did have one fact. I knew that Brian had moved around a couple times in his career, but one little piece of information that I could at least use somewhere along the way. But in trying to obtain commitment. Now, Brian, what part do you think that I did well there as far as using the strategy and building rapport? That seemed to go pretty well.
Yeah, I thought the small talk coming in, being just very nice and engaging, and if you're not coming right at me, definitely the aggressive sales have me running for the sales process.
I understand.
And I will say that I didn't mean that about the not liking my job.
He says that because there's people.
Telling his boss today, Brian's not happy.
All right.
Yeah.
Did it, my open-ended questions, did those work? Did it seem like I was understanding some of the needs?
Absolutely.
Okay, I thought at some point I was starting to get a little bit too much talk with it, so I was going through the book and trying to pitch the book. I didn't know if I was losing you on
No, I was probably thinking too much. I saw the soft cover book in there, and I thought,
that.
well,
Getting things done?
yeah, maybe that I was supposed to not go for the first one and
Go
get
for
you
the
the
second.
second one, but I thought you did
Okay, good. And we seem to solve your problem, at least to some degree. Got the vernacular thing down, that was good. Obtaining commitment, anything I could have done better to close the sale?
No, for me it was the right level. It just the casual back and forth, the non-aggressive sales. Nothing really comes to mind. I thought he did a good job selling me on the book and getting at what I was after with the vernacular.
Very good. Actually, I planned on bringing a whole stack, because I just didn't know which tack we were going to take when you walked through the bookstore.
That's right.
Fortunately, we latched out of a couple of titles like that. So thank you, Brian, for
All right.
participating.
Yep.
Please give Brian another hand. So once again, that sales strategy has those 4 bullet points. You want to build rapport. You want to understand the buyer's needs, particularly asking those open-ended questions. Then work to solve whatever the buyer's problems happens to be. And then finally, obtaining commitment. It doesn't just work in sales with small things like books, might help you pitch a project along the way. So I encourage you to think about that approach in your business life and your career and consumers, wherever you might be. In your comments, Doug probably mentioned this for a moment, but I know there's a comments page. I would particularly be interested in any comments you have on the role play and my ability to use that sales strategy. So with that, I'd like to say thank you. Looking forward back over to our question.